And I got to the point with my ash bowl. I'd finished the bottom. I'd not sanded or put any finish on it. Now I've sanded it up to 400. It's got a really nice finish. I don't think there's any marks in it, and I finished it with cut and polish, wax on the back with lots of carnauba in it, and it's looking quite nice. So I'll show you that now. So that's quite a nice view of it actually. I can come in a bit. So it shows quite a nice lot of grain. If I change hands, I'll take my lock off. Just going to take it off, but it's definitely two different colours, which looks it's a sort of a bowl of two halves. So I've turned it round in the chuck, and I've just done one little pass across to see what it's like, and it's running quite even. There's a little bit of reference to the paint there that I had before that I mentioned. I'm going to turn this off flat and decide see what the grain looks like. So that a little bit lower. And that is, you'll have to trust me on this, that is very nice and smooth, and it's still very much two halves. Quite like to think I would leave a little bit of timber there, and I'd like to colour a little coloured band there and have quite a deep bowl in the middle. Could use a key bowl or something like that. So perhaps that's my plan. So I'll get my pencil out. I don't usually have a plan. I usually like to see how it turns out, but I've got one indoors that I particularly like. That's that sort of style, but it's very shallow. So perhaps there to there, if I colour it. And then a nice deep bowl in there. Moving on then, what I've done is I've got a small ridge here, and I've beveled a slight paint part there I'm going to paint, and then I've got another dip here, so that's the bit I'm going to turn out a nice deep bowl. And the plan is that when I've painted, I can turn this back to raw wood and just put a bit of lacquer or something over it, and I'll have a nice crisp clean edge there, and I'll have a nice crisp clean edge there. That's the theory. So I'm going to put a bit of acrylic sanding seed on it now. I've put a couple of coats of black gloss on there and an overcoat of lacquer. And I've got 4 Jo Sonja's iridescents, a tiny little bit of gold to add to it. I'm going to thin that down with some flow medium, and I'm hoping to do the rotating thing. That's why I've got my box on. So, well, I'm going to see how it works. Okay, so first one on was my iridescent blue. Just put some dobs on it and let it spin and see what happened, and that's what happened. Sorry, brush is in the way. Next went the iridescent red, and okay, so we're moving on, and that's splattered out a bit. Probably nicer I didn't put quite as much paint on, so I can come back to some of that. Next I put some of the turquoise in the ditch, which is then mixed with the blue and the red, and because I put it in the ditch it's not penetrated as far, but it's added, obviously the paints are mixed, and that's looking quite nice actually. I might highlight that now with a bit of gold. So I've added all the colours, high speed, flicked it around, it spread out as I hoped it would do, and I've now got I'm going to put a little bit of sealer over the top of it before I turn the middle out. That's the plan. It's turned out, well, I don't know, we'll find out how it turns out. So that's where I've got to so far. I've got one coat of lacquer on top of it, and you don't get much of an effect there, but it's quite nice in the bright light. So now to turn the middle out. So at this point I'm going to turn a very fine edge on this edge, because I think that will give it a nicer feel. Just round it over, kind of match the curve that I've got on there. I don't know whether that's a good view or not, but we'll see. So I'm running about 1600 revs, so I'm going to come down just a little shear straight here, very very fine. I've got my extractor on because this is very fine. I'm only taking almost dust off it, and I want to go round that corner, so that's what I'm going to do. Very fine. And yeah, really happy with that. That's good. So that's not me turned it out, and a little bit of wax on in the middle just to turn it off. Bit of sanding sealer, a bit of wax. It looks quite nice on the lathe. It's still got two parts, so we've still got this kind of crescent side, that side, and a real dark side, this side, very similar to the back. So I'm going to take it off now and reverse it and take the bottom off, take my chucking point off. So I'm going to reverse chuck it and use my little ring thing on the back, so I don't have too much to sand away at the end, if I have something to sand away at the end, but I hope not. So that's the theory. I've still got the centre point on the back from when I turned it originally, so I can take that up. That's not looking too bad. Tighten that up a bit. And I think that's running alright. Make sure it's all nice and tight. It's turning alright. Oh, that's turning. I'm quite pleased with that. That's turning quite. We'll say square, but that's turning quite round. So quite pleased with that. something else that I found that works once you've sanded the back off and got a nice finish. Put a bit of wax on there and get a nice clean piece of tissue and my sanding disc out of my drill. Put some paper on there, holds it, just pressurised. Turn the lathe on and you can buff that up. And get quite a nice shine on it without too much effort. You can see my reflection there. So that's quite a good finish, and that's quite a good bottom, and I'm quite pleased with that. If I come in my tail view, you can see it's a nice finish on the bottom, and that's the edge that I talked about. I quite like that little edge, and there the gold just flecks out. They didn't put a lot of gold on, just flecks out, something different and something I'd not tried before. Anyway, you either like it or you don't.